In today's lesson, we're going to learn how to go from one form to another in the world of quadratics. So this was a form that was given to you in a past couple lesson videos. So this is what we're used to seeing, and when something's written like this, it's very quick to graph it. So for example, you would say, oh, I go right 3, up 4, and I have to cut all my counting patterns in half. So you can graph it very quickly. You know exactly where the vertex is. If you recall, vertex is located at h, k. So when you move sideways and then up or down, you'll be at your vertex. So it's very quick to find the vertex. Standard form, on the other hand, hides the vertex. You cannot see h or k in this formula. So that makes it very difficult to graph. So I just want you to kind of be familiar with the fact that vertex form shows h and k. It shows the vertex, so that's what's nice. It's very easy to graph something if you know where the vertex is. Standard form is not so nice when you graph it because it doesn't show you where h and k are. You can't see what those numbers are, so you don't know how far to shift, left, right, up, or down. My job is to show you how to go from one form to the other. Each form has its own strengths and weaknesses. Graphing-wise, vertex form is way better, but when we're using, for example, the quadratic formula to solve problems, standard form is probably a better way to go. So we're going to do the easier of the two first. We're going to go from vertex to standard form. So you can see that all of these right now have the parentheses with the squared outside. That means they're in vertex form. We want to convert that into like having the x squared, the x, and then the number standard form. So all you have to do is FOIL or simplify, expand it out, and then combine any like terms you get. Now, I had talked about a little shortcut in a past lesson video on how to do this without showing a lot of work at all. So you take this little squared, okay, we need to do this right here. We're going to square the first term. We're going to square the second term, which gets you positive 1. Now you notice when I wrote this, I left some space right in here. That's because I'm going to have a third thing to write. We multiply these together, which would get you negative x, and then we times it by 2, or we double it. That would get you negative 2x. So when you FOIL this out, you're going to get x squared minus 2x plus 1. You don't want to forget, though, you have a plus 2 right here. So that comes along for the ride. And then we're going to combine like terms, and you get x squared minus 2x plus 3. And there's your standard form. So whether you graph it in this form or this one, you're going to get the same graph. You're going to get the exact same like shifting, heights, all that fun stuff. It's just a matter of convenience. This one I would know to go right 1, up 2, put a dot, and then start graphing. This one I don't know how far to shift. All right, number 2. I want to remind you that we can't distribute this 2 in here. That's multiplication. Distributing is multiplying. You have an exponent. According to order of operations, you're supposed to take care of the exponent before you multiply. So you have to square this binomial. And again, that is where our shortcut comes in handy. So we're going to square x. We're going to square the 3. You get 9. We're going to multiply 3 and x to get 3x, and then we're going to double it to make 6x. Now that I have FOILed, I'm going to go ahead, put that in parentheses, put that 2 back out front, and bring down my minus 8. And then I can go ahead and finish up the problem. We're going to distribute. Now 2 times 9 is 18, but then you're going to subtract 8. So that's going to make 10. So going from vertex to standard form is a very simple thing to do. It's just using the acronym FOIL and using that little trick that, square, square, multiply, and double. That comes in handy when you're doing this. Now going the other way, from standard back to vertex form, that's more steps, that's more difficult. The first thing you're going to need to do is compute your h value because you can't see it. Standard form uses the letters A, B, and C. There's no h and there's no k that are visible, so you have to compute them. And we do have a formula to get h. It's derived from using standard form and getting creative, but for right now, there's the formula. And you do not have to have it memorized. but it is negative b over 2a. What you're going to do is you're going to compute your h value. So let's say you get 3. You're going to take that h value of 3 and you're going to plug it in or substitute it in for anywhere you see an x. So again, you take that h value, that answer, and you put it in anywhere you see an x. Whatever that comes out to equal, that's your k value. So most common question I get from students is, Mrs. Stutz, what's the formula for k? We don't use a formula for k. We use a formula for h, but not for k. You have to know that anytime you plug h into the problem, your answer is your k value. It depends on what the problem says. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put it to the test. Your mission is to fill in a, h, and k in your vertex form. You can't graph the problem if you don't know what those numbers are. So once you have all 3 of those, you are basically done. You present your answer and you move on. First thing I would like you to do is put an a above the 2, a b above -4, and a c above the 5. Those are your a, b, and c values. So if your first task is to find a, you can see that it's actually already provided. It's 2. So I know right off the bat that a is 2. The next thing I'm going to get is my h value. I'm going to have to compute that. So my formula is negative b over 2a. So I'm going to put -4 in b spot, and I'm going to substitute 2 in for a. Now when I do that math, I'm going to get 4 over 4, which is just 1. So now I know h is 1. So that's my second piece of data. Now that I know h, I can go ahead and get k. All I have to do is take this 1 and replace all my x's with that 1. As soon as you put that 1, your h value, into the problem, your answer is going to be k. So instead of 2x squared, it's 2 times 1 squared. 4x is now 4 times 1 plus 5. And then you simplify that. Now be careful, you do not do 2 times 1. You have to do 1 squared first. Exponents come before multiplication. So 1 squared is 1, times 2 is 2. 4 times 1 is 4, so it would be minus 4, and then plus 5. 2 minus 4 is -2, plus 5 is 3. So your k is 3. Your work is basically done. All you have to do is present your answer. So I'm going to write this whole formula that's up here, except I'm going to replace a, h, and k. So we have f of x equals, my a value is 2, and then parenthesis, x minus my h value of 1 squared plus my k value of 3. Now if I wrote a problem like this and asked you to graph it, you can see, oh, if I go right 1 and up 3, that's my vertex, 1, 3. I can't see that from standard form. Nowhere in there does it say 1 and 3, so you have to work for it. That's what makes standard form annoying. We'll try another one together here. This time there's nothing in front of x squared, so it's up to us to remember that there's really a 1 right here. So your a value is 1. Then we're going to go ahead and we're going to set up h. The h formula says negative your b term, which is 6, all over 2 times your a term, which is 1. That's going to get me -3. Then I take this -3 and I replace all my x's with it. So my k will be -3 squared plus 6 times -3 minus 1. Now we need to know better here. Any number squared is going to be positive. So whether it's 3 or -3, it makes no difference. I'm going to get 9. This is going to get me -18, and then I have a -1. And then when I put that all together, I should get -10. So my K is -10. Now that I have A, H, and K, I'm going to go ahead and present my answer. So f of x equals, now my A is 1, but you're not required to write 1 out front. So I'm going to skip that, and I'm going to move on to the parenthesis, x minus, I'm going to plug in my H, which is -3, squared, plus my K value, which is -10. Now we are going to want to clean that up again, because if you have a negative side by side, you really should just write plus. So it's really x plus 3 squared. And you don't have to have plus -10, you can just write -10. So that's how you would see the answer presented in a multiple choice question. So I just want to make sure you realize those are the same thing. But we don't want to leave negative inside. You want to change that to plus. So I'd like you to give C a try. See if you can compute or get A, H, and K, and then present your answer as a final vertex form, and let's see if we agree on our answers. Go ahead and pause the video. When you're ready, unpause, and the answer will be there. All right, now you want to keep in mind that if your H value is wrong, then likely your K value is wrong as well. It doesn't mean that you did the process wrong, but obviously if you use a different number, then you're going to get a different answer. So the H should be +4. You should have -8, and then 2 times -1 is -2, and those two negatives make a positive outcome. The other thing to watch out for is when you plug this in, this is a 4. So you shouldn't have -4 in parentheses, you should just have 4. The negative sign should be outside of the parentheses. That's important because you're not doing -4 squared, you're doing 4 squared and then making it negative. So we must square first, exponents first, then apply whatever's out front. When you do that in the correct order, you should get 21. Now letter D is going to be trickier because you're going to have a fraction in it, but the steps are the same. So your first thing is to note that your A value is 4. We're going to compute H, so we're going to do negative your B value, which is 7, over 2 times your A. Now that I would do in my head. 2 times 4 is just 8, so it's -7/8. It is going to be a nuisance to type that in a calculator, and a lot of times kids type it in wrong when you're typing fractions, so it's probably best to convert it to decimal form. If you're not sure how to do that, you just do -7 divided by 8. That should get you -0.875. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take that term, you're going to substitute your H back in for x, so -0.875 squared plus 7 parenthesis -0.875. Now when you type this in on a calculator, it's best to type it all in one shot instead of doing the first part and then the second part and then putting them together. I would not recommend that. Type it all in exactly as you see it, parentheses and all. When you do that, you're going to get about -3.06. And it's okay if you want to round it off a little bit. I'm not going to be picky about that. Most teachers are not. And then you go to present your answer. So you have f of x equals your A value, which is 4, parentheses, x. Be careful, if you minus a negative, it's a plus. So it's actually x plus 0.875 squared, and then your K value, which is -3.06. So in our next video, we're going to take that skill that we learned about converting to vertex form, and we're going to do some graphing with it.